Madam Wamuchomba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name's Gathoni, Wamuchomba.
Order, it's not a Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Wamuchomba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My apologies. My name's Gathoni, Wamuchomba.
Okay.
I just needed to clarify that. I rise to support that very detailed report from the Honorable Committee. And I must confess that that committee has done quite a commendable job. Matters land are very complicated. Auditing land that is in the hands of state corporations and authorities sometimes becomes very difficult and complicated, owing to the fact that sometimes the officers, the accounting officers, have a lot of bureaucracy for them to be able to get the right and relevant documents that are supposed to be used during audit. Auditing land that pertains to universities like Kenyatta University, the land that is used to settle the Kenyatta Referral Hospital, it's something that gives me excitement because I am not only an interested party in the land, but I am a neighbor. And as you all know, that sometimes when the neighbor's compound has issues, you also have issues. Mr. Speaker, allow me to just congratulate the committee because they have outlined issues that have been a pain to the communities that use that land for a long time. And how I wish that that kind of in-depth audit can also happen to the pieces of land that are now being used for special economic zones. Because the issues that I have heard from the report that has been tabled sounds like there are similar issues that we are hearing from communities that are now getting displaced or accommodated within the special economic zones. I hope that that committee has the mandate to also do an audit on the many parcels of land that we are handing over under that kind of a program. Mr. Speaker, I am very much concerned about issues of title deed. The report clearly states that there are institutions, government-affiliated institutions, that own land by paper, but they don't have the titles. That is the same scenario, Mr. Speaker, with some of the schools, public schools, that we are funding as members of parliament through CDF. We are forced to struggle so much to locate titles so that we can be able to put money, government money, in such schools. Unfortunately, some of these schools are schools that are constructed within the compound of those public entities and institutions that have been audited through that committee. I am very particular, Mr. Speaker, when I speak about title deeds, because I don't know how we are ever going to sort out this issue if we don't speak now, audit now, and give directions now. For example, Mr. Speaker, when I speak about the schools that are under the special economic zones, for example, in my county, Kiambu, we have the Tatu City Economic Zone. Before that area was outlined as a special economic zone, there were schools that were surviving in that piece of land. Not one school. For example, it's good to be factual. Under Tatu City Special Economic Zone, we have Gewe Primary School, Oaklad Primary School, Tatu Primary School, and Oaklad. Have I said Oaklad? Oaklad, Tatu, Gewe. Those schools traditionally were there before we allocated or transformed that land as a special economic zone. When the new investors come, they assume that the schools in the zone belongs to them. And they own the land, and they also purport to own the schools. But that cannot happen because, Mr. Speaker, these are schools that were funded using taxpayers' money, are continuously being funded, supported by the government through TSC. Teachers are posted in those schools. Money for capitation is shared in those schools. But the investors assume because we gave them the area as a special economic zone, they own the schools. So as we speak right now, Mr. Speaker, we don't know who owns those 3 public primary schools and where the title deed for those 3 public primary schools is. Mr. Speaker, this House must intentionally move to the direction of creating order, providing legal framework and policy documents that will guide us going forward. And therefore, when I listen to that very detailed report from my committee, my colleagues' committee, I am very excited. And how I pray that the recommendations that have been given by our honorable members from that committee are recommendations that are going to be implemented. They are recommendations that are going to guide us on how we are going to make legal framework so that we don't have these things coming up and back and forth. Back to the land that is hosting Kenyatta University Referral Hospital. Mr. Speaker, if we are not careful, that issue is going to be the next volcano, both politically and economically. And it's going to concern so many livelihoods. I cannot imagine that the report I have heard talks about whatever has been invested in that piece of land that occupies both the university and the hospital, spreading to even private hospital, is worth 5.1 billion. I can't imagine that is the kind of report that we are talking about. And therefore, if we are going to plan around the 5.1 billion, we are going to be deceiving ourselves and deceiving the communities that have invested around that area. I know of people who have invested more than 30 million shillings as individuals in the area surrounding the hospital. And therefore, if we ignore the amount of investment that has been put around that land and give government offices untrue facts and make relevant laws and policies around untrue and misrepresented facts, we are soon going to get ourselves in a lot of problems. And therefore, it is my sincere hope as a lawmaker, as a leader, that this issue is not just going to be taken just like any other report that we have received in this House. I hope the Committee of Implementation, under the leadership and the guidance of the Speaker, is going to be given the right direction and timelines on when some of these recommendations should be put in place and should be effected. Otherwise, we are going to be singing a round game song that will not have echo until the problems comes back to us. Mr. Speaker, before I sit down, even as I congratulate the committee for the wonderful investigations that has been done, I still feel that there are other institutions that hold land that is in contempt, that is in contentious processes that needs to be audited. When I speak about other institutions, I'm also speaking about institutions that are holding land as sponsors of institutions, acting as mother institutions of upcoming institutions. We need to be very clear on how to go about the issues of land ownership of institutions that are purportedly sponsored by other institutions in existence. For example, Mr. Speaker, if you are to invest in a new TVET, the Ministry of Education directs you to invest in a new TVET, but sponsored by a mother TVET. And therefore, every time you have a question concerning land, you are not referred to the upcoming TVET, but you have to go through the sponsoring TVET. Some of these sponsoring TVETs are not in the same neighborhood with the upcoming TVET. And therefore, they may not know the implications of some of the decisions they make around land. And therefore, we find ourselves pumping money into upcoming institutions, which are sponsored by existing institutions, according to the laws, but the actual community land issues are not sorted by the mother sponsors of that institution. It is my sincere hope that this audit is not going to stop here. This audit is going to continue, and issues pertaining land and titling of land that is purported supposed to be under the public authorities and agencies related to government is put up very clearly. And before we put money or we fund such institutions, the title deeds should be clear so that we do not get ourselves into issues. as we speak about land, we cannot trust people who are in acting capacity for some of these sensitive issues. This issue of acting CEOs.
Add her another 1 minute, half a minute. What's the problem?
Thank you. Thank you for the addition. With the issue of having most of the government-related offices being governed and led by acting people people in acting capacity is something that is very worrying. Because some of these CEOs and finance managers in an acting capacity, sometimes they always give excuses of not completing an assignment or committing themselves into an issue because they are in acting capacity. I hope that after we are done with auditing of this land that is under the public authorities, we are also going to audit how many public institutions have CEOs as acting as actors of the actual positions held. And I think that is something that we need to look at because it is very, very important to safeguard the resources of this country. Otherwise, I support the report and congratulate the committee and the chair of the committee for the wonderful report tabled. Thank you.
No man rep for Wajir.